Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio, the Batman and DC podcast with no limits. This week we are Bat Force Tom in California.
Cheers, everybody.
The Grumpler in New York.
Yo.
Dunk, also in New York.
Salut.
And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. And this week we are joined by a pair of guests who happen to be married. I mean, to each other, not just to other people. That wouldn't be worth mentioning. Known as a best-selling romance author who is delving into the world of comics, beginning recently with Chapter 6 of Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Red, and continuing with this week's Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn, she is Katana Collins.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And well-known to anyone listening to this show as the creator of the Batman White Knight universe itself, he is Sean Murphy.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here again. I think this is my fourth time hanging out with you guys.
At least.
Fourth or fifth or seventh or something, yeah.
You've probably beaten Scott Snyder for how many times you've come back.
Yeah, suck it, Scott.
Scott, please come back.
But how's life been, guys? Now, not both of you have to tiptoe around it. Like, you can't say anything bad about the other one now.
That's not true. We can say to each other.
Yeah, that will not hold her back from bitching about me on record.
You gotta pass each other in the hallway.
I'm just going to assume that Katana's going to answer every question first because she's the headliner here.
Oh, well, I like that. Wait, what was the question? How are we doing? I don't even know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, answer any way you want.
I mean, it's COVID. We're hanging in there, you know.
This is her first comic book podcast ever.
It is.
Yeah, but you guys aren't inexperienced, though. You did your own podcast.
We did,
So, yeah, you fully know what you're doing. Yeah.
A handful.
We did, and we kept butting heads because I like to push the envelope as far as things to say, and she likes to play a little bit more conservative. And I would try to make it a crass joke, and she would get mad and stop and re-record and delete it. And I realized our brands were slightly misaligned.
Our brands are very different.
But not in the bedroom.
Disney princess. Yeah. If we were in the same room, we'd high five.
Yeah, we're recording from different computers because we don't know how to share a microphone.
We're really not tech savvy. Like, the fact that we even attempted our own podcast was just probably a terrible idea. Even now I have a microphone, but I don't think it's on. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I guess it's on. or that cup attached to a string that I sent over is working.
You can, yeah. So, Katana, are you excited to meet So you have a bunch of romance readers and erotic romance people that follow you, but you don't have any comic book people that follow you yet.
No, not really. I mean, a handful that I think have crossed over from just talking about the new Harley book, but not many yet.
You've had people, because when I don't respond to people on social media, they figured out to write to you and you will respond.
Yeah, those are the smart people. Like, they learned even well before I was writing any sort of comic. They would maybe DM you and because you especially don't really know how to use Instagram. Like there was a time, I have to tell this story because I think it's really funny. I posted an Instagram story and Sean replied to it. And he replied to it as though it was a comment that everyone could see. And he was like, hell yeah, am I right, everyone? And I was like, everyone? You just sent me a message, you dumbass.
I'm pretty sure everybody can see these, Katana. Pretty sure my comeback is going to be viewable with the whole world. And I had no idea it was just one-on-one when you responded.
So does that mean that I'm not the only one who gets random pictures when Sean's drunk?
Oh. Probably not. I'm sure.
Sending you one right now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So yeah, there were a handful of people who were and are artists and creators in the industry who maybe had sent Sean a question in the DMs, but Sean didn't see it or didn't respond. And so then they would DM me, knowing that I was his wife, and they were, so far everyone's been like really nice. So I've made some nice friends in the industry that way.
You made friends with my friends, people I was trying to actively ignore.
Well, could you ask Sean a question for me? They don't start with that. Usually they start actually talking to me, which is nice. And then eventually they would slide in a question or two for Sean.
When I joined Instagram, I didn't know this little arrow at the top right that you had all these requests. So I had like 1,000 requests lined up, and apparently a request is anything from like someone mentioned to you to someone who actually writes to you or someone I still don't really understand it. I just know to like delete all every now and then. And even my niece who wrote me, apparently she was upset.
I know where mine went.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not personal. Actually, with the Grumpler, it really was personal.
Yeah, you literally like didn't respond to your own niece, and she, at Christmas like a year or two ago, she was like, "Uncle Sean, how come you're not responding to me?"
Whatever, kid, I'm busy. The nice thing is when you get to my level of comics, people just assume you're always slammed. So if you don't respond, they never hold it against you. And there's plenty of times where I've got nothing to do and I'm just deleting emails without even responding. And it's
little do they know you're actually just on the Nintendo Switch. Like...
I'm busy playing Hunt Down, bitches. I can't respond to everybody.
I thought you were going to say Animal Crossing.
That's Colleen.
That's what I play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the first one.
She plays all the girl games like Luigi's Mansion and Duck Duck Goose or whatever it is.
They're not girl games. Animal Crossing is for everyone. It's just a happy place to be.
It's for everyone who wants to date a girl.
Okay, well, let's try to get somewhat on track here. Katana, I wanted to ask your origin story. Like, what got you onto the path of becoming a writer? Like, what was the inspiration? What made you decide you wanted to do that?
Overall writing, I always loved to write. When I was a kid, I would like make my own storybooks and I would attempt to illustrate them. They were terrible. And I started writing a little family newspaper called the Katana Crier. Where I would just
whoa! How come I've never heard about it?
I don't know. I've put it in
pretty
many.
Sure, I wouldn't have asked you out if I had known this about your past.
If you don't know, now you know.
Katana Crier, and like I would make my family pay for it because like I can't just give it for them for free. So I would charge like 10 cents to my dad and my mom and my brother and my sister, and But realistically, like when I really started looking at writing was in college. And I needed a final like extra credit class to graduate. And the only classes that were available was a creative nonfiction class. And I signed up for it because I like writing. And the professor of that class, who was Heather Dune McAdams, she's still a good friend of mine and a good mentor. She, a week or so into the class, asked me what my major was. And I was majoring in photography at the time. And she was like, "Why are you not a writer? Why are you not writing? You're really good at this." And I just never realized that could be a viable career option ever did I think that could be something that you could make your living on. And so she really helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And eventually I wrote my first book, which was a paranormal erotic romance that sold to a publishing house. So my first book sold in a 3-book series.
This is so you worked at a publishing house first, though, right, Katana?
Yeah. So one of the things when I decided I wanted to sit down and actually write a book, I wanted to write a book that was fiction. I took an internship at a publishing house to be able to sit in on the meetings and see like what they were buying and why they were buying it, and what they were rejecting and why they were rejecting it. So sitting in on those meetings, I want to say it was like pretty much right around the time of 50 Shades of Grey. And so they were just buying every erotic romance that they could get their hands on. And I was like, I like romance. Like I used to read Harley Quinn romance, under the covers with a flashlight that were my mom's books that I stole. So like I loved romance, and I was like, I bet I could do that. I love that genre. And that's what inspired me to write my first one.
The self-publishing your own book seems to be the key for a lot of people. You're not the first person to tell us the story of that. That was how Marv Wolfman got started. Before he was a famous comic author, he was producing his own zines, and like he had there was a comic one like superheroes, there was a horror one. He had this whole series that he was putting out, and he was actually the first person to ever publish Stephen King.
Oh wow!
Before Stephen King was anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about Marvel.
I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, I want to jump forward quite a bit now, because we're specifically here to talk about the work that the two of you are currently doing together. How did the two of you meet? Oh, there's a little giggle there.
It was
we met a long time ago.
We met on September 12th, 2001, the day after 9/11.
The day after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
We were in Savannah, went to college, and I was in the art store buying supplies, and she was there. I remember putting on my resting bitch face, which is what I used to do when I saw a girl I thought was hot. Like, I don't know what to do. I'll just act angry. And I guess it worked.
Which is weird because I am not an angry person. I am a very happy, bubbly human. But yeah, we were in line at the art supply store for our college, and I was right behind him with my 2 girlfriends that I had just met. And I guess I was
She kept yabbing on about photography and all that, and she was so bright and bubbly, and I was like sort of angsty, and I'm like, fuck this chick. Like, yeah, she's hot and whatever. I'm not into blonde girls, so whatever. I'm just gonna say what's on my mind. So I turned around in line. I was like, "You're a photography major? Well, photography is not really art. You're just like taking pictures of what God created."
Yeah, his negging game was on point.
Yeah. So, there's a couple cards you can play when you're hitting on girls. I was really good at like the scoundrel card, the negging, so to speak.
You didn't say it with that much vehemence, though. Like you were a little like more like sarcastic in how you were saying it, because then I was like, oh, okay, Mr. Artiste, like what is it you do? And you wouldn't really answer that question.
I didn't want to tell you I drew comics because I knew that wasn't very good.
It must feel really nice up on that high horse of yours. And so eventually, like, you said sequential art, and I was like, okay, I don't even know what that is.
And I was hoping, like, I hope she doesn't know this is comics. I hope she doesn't know this is comics.
It's like how hipsters today refer to comics as graphic novels because it sounds cooler than saying comics.
But back then, like, it wasn't cool. You would never get laid because you were right or were involved with comics. It was something that you were ashamed of. So I said sequential art, thinking, well, she won't know what that is. And her fucking friend did, and she ratted me out. She's like, oh, you just draw
comic books. And I was like, well. And that's how it began.
And Sean hates that friend to this day.
No, Our niece is coming to stay with us for a month. She'll be here later tonight. She's actually the daughter of that person, so she's still in the club. And no, she's great. But for effect, for storytelling, you guys, I have to make it sound like I'm a kid.
That was a better story than I even imagined it could be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. We met when I was 18.
Wow.
And guys, I was creating this. When I met her, I was wearing sandals with socks.
It's true.
Oh,
Jeez, man.
Yeah. I overlooked that.
Not proud of that.
Pulled off a miracle.
But it wasn't like
that.
the kind of sandals that splits the toe. Because I had a friend who used to have sandals like that, and he would still wear socks. I had like cool, off-road sandals.
Cool,
I'm not trying to justify it.
With toe socks.
Those like Velcro sandals from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. My credit, I was there to get supplies, not pick up chicks, so I wasn't ready. Okay?
It's okay. I was in overalls and like braided pigtails, and I probably looked like an infant. So we both had our fashion faux pas that day.
Yeah. And then later on in that week, I was on the rowing team, and we went to a rowing party, and I was the captain of the rowing team. And I accidentally introduced her as Diana, who was this other girl on the team whose phone number I also got. And I was so thrilled that Katana did not get mad, and she sort of let it laughed off.
All right. Some people don't call me that.
So I kept putting my foot in my mouth, as I tend to do, as you guys know me. And she goes, well, what happened? I go, well, I got Diana's phone number the same day I got your phone number. I actually got 3 phone numbers that day. And she goes, oh, well, I was obviously the last phone number.
Clearly the last one.
And that should have been my out. Like, I should have just said yes. But like an idiot, I had to be honest and go, actually, you were the second phone number.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I appreciate the honesty, though.
And yet, I still closed the deal, everybody.
So you were wearing socks and sandals and got 3 numbers.
I have that much game. Yeah, I don't know.
Drawing comics.
Yeah. It's funny because now I have friends that draw comics, and they put that shit on Tinder, and they actually meet a lot of people because working in comics gets you laid now. Whereas when I was a kid, that was a deterrent, if anything. My friend's like, oh yeah, I met this girl. Like, she only responded because she saw I was working at Marvel. I'm like, are you son of a bitch? You get to tell people you draw comics, you actually get laid because of that? I had to hide that shit.
Well, yeah, comics are such a different thing. Like, I work at a shop here in Canada, and there was one day I could see. Well, it happens all the time, but one day in particular, I could see on. We have security cameras because we have 2 floors, so we have to be able to watch people upstairs. So there were these girls that came in that I didn't recognize, and they were wandering around. Obviously, didn't know what they were looking for or anything. So I'm watching them when they go upstairs, what they're doing, and one of them is pretending to flip through a long box of back issues from the back of the box. So she's seeing like the ads on the backs of all the comics. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I realize what she's doing. Oh, she's on that side because the lighting's better, and her friend is taking pictures of her.
Did we lose you?
Oh, there we go. I lost connection.
There you go. There you
go.
Well, are we still recording?
Yeah.
I think it's just a really, really bad connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you hearing me? All right. Well, let's continue. Where were we? Oh, yeah. That's what I want to ask next. We sort of answered it already, but I wanted to ask again to Katana if you had prior interest in comics before the opportunities like this started coming.
The short answer is yes. The long answer is I was always a little hesitant just because it seemed like it was so much in Sean's territory that, there's always kind of the fear of nepotism and whatnot. But
sorry.
But I mean, that is what it is, right? Like, I like comics. He was actually the first person to introduce me to Batman the Animated Series, which is when I fell in love with all of the Harley Quinn episodes. And the first comic he gave me to read was like a little indie book called Love Story? True Story. No.
True Story, swear to God.
True Story, swear to God. A love story.
I thought you were going to say he gave you Punk Rock Jesus.
No. Punk Rock Jesus wasn't even a blip on his radar back then. This was like, he was just a little baby, still in undergrad at this point.
I hadn't even done
wearing sandals and socks.
Wearing socks and sandals. In like Savannah, Georgia, for the record, which you do not need to wear socks in Savannah, Georgia. Like, it is hot and humid. So yeah, like I had an interest in writing comics, but I always felt very nervous to enter that world.
She's been coming with me to shows and stuff for a while, and seeing my career unravel. And when we got married, it was I was poor, like I was still barely hanging on to comics. Sorry, no, when I moved to New York from LA, it's when we lived together. So I was just starting to do Hellblazer, City of Demons. I hadn't got Joe the Barbarian yet. I was a bad bet for any girl looking to marry a guy. Like, I was not a good bet.
Or a guy with fashion sense.
Well, at least I had the socks, yeah.
I remember you were drawing Star Trek when we moved in together.
Yeah.
Because you were like trying to get Patrick Stewart's likeness. Correct.
Yeah, so I moved in. I was living in Hollywood. I moved to New York to be with Katana, and she had a 600 square foot studio apartment in Hell's Kitchen, super tiny. And I set up my drawing studio, and I had to draw the Star Trek book for the Borg, and I was, working on that while we were looking for a bigger place. And it wasn't until a few years went by when I got hooked up with Karen Berger, and I got an exclusive contract to do Joe the Barbarian. And doing Joe was like, that's the first time I ever made like a consistent living wage in comics. I think it was like 60 or 80 a year, somewhere in between. I don't know. Like I vaguely remember doing the math thinking this is amazing. Because up to that point I was making like 20,000 a year, or even less actually. So it was a huge boost for me, and we could afford a bigger place. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that first apartment in Hell's Kitchen was so small and because you needed one of the 3 rooms we had for your studio, we had a bedroom that we could only fit like a pull-out couch in, and every night we would pull out the bed to go to sleep, and every morning we'd put the couch back in so that we would be able to walk around the apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nuts.
And we had 2 dogs. We had 2 big, like, lab mastiffs in that tiny apartment with us.
Oh, jeez.
Very crowded.
Yeah, I've had my career in comics. I mean, I'm made it to the big time now, some people would say, but before that, I had like 8 years of like poverty level living and sleeping in dumpsters and just really hard times. Like I was ready to quit and get a job application to Best Buy like a handful of times over the years. And it wasn't until like 2008 or 9 when things started to look actually stable. And even now, like, I'm happy with where I've risen, but I always have one foot out. Like I'm ready for the bottom to fall out at any time, because I don't know, it's just that mentality isn't healthy, but it's sort of just the way I was for so long, and it helped me survive and be careful and spend very little money. Although I don't spend little money anymore. My wife can attest.
Exhibit A is the Datsun.
I knew that was going to come up. It's a company car, Colleen. Our accountant said, just buy a car, keep it under 50, and it's a company car. So I bought a car under 50, and then I put like another 100 into it.
Crafty.
It's a
No, that's not true. If any IRS people are listening, like,
Of course not. No, it's all hearsay.
But that's sort of fitting that you said the first time you started making a comfortable living in comics was on Joe the Barbarian, and in Joe the Barbarian you were beginning to draw characters like Batman and Grey Ghost in there. Yeah. And now look at where you've ended up.
Yeah, man. I didn't think I'd ever be able to draw Batman. So when Grant Morrison wrote in the script that Joe has all these toys that come to life, I'm like, great, let me just get my checklist out. Like I want to draw Lobo, I want to draw Superman, Batman, blah blah blah. Because clearly, I'd never get to do that again. And I guess it turned around.
And now, fast forward to today, the two of you are working on a comic together, and it also includes Grey Ghost.
Right?
It does. Another one of my favorite characters.
Who came up with so in Harley Quinn, the spin-off series that Katana's writing, we have a Grey Ghost cameo, not just a cameo, he's actually active in the plot. And I don't remember who came up with that. Was it you or me?
I don't remember either.
Well, who came up with a serial killer that was going after Hollywood Golden Age?
That was definitely me.
So it might have been me who said, let's have her go after Simon Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was probably you who mentioned Simon Trent, because I was so obsessed with the idea of this like Hollywood Golden Age killer.
Yeah. So, when people buy this, they might think that Katana and I wrote it 50-50. It really is like 80-20, 80 being on her side. When I told DC what I wanted to do, I'm like, I want to do spinoffs, and you guys are looking to hire diversity. Well, I've got you love hiring women. Well, hire my woman. That way the money still comes into my house. And she's not like she's unqualified. She's been a successful writer, an Emmy Award winner for years, so she knows what she's doing. And I thought, well, if I could just take like a day a month off and teach my wife how comics are a little bit different and sort of manage it in a way and guide her in, then maybe I could turn her into the next White Knight writer, basically, and just sort of keep the torch going while I work on other things.
And it's really a formatting difference. It's just a very different format of writing. And I had been reading a lot of your scripts for years, and I haven't written any of your prior scripts, but like I've read them and I've like helped you with dialogue and stuff like that. So like I kind of already knew that format a bit.
Yeah, like I had some touchy subjects that I went over in White Knight with Harley being a victim / survivor. And I had to kind of confront some difficult subject matter there because I didn't want to piss off male, female readers, anybody that has gone through any kind of trauma like that. So I would run by my most touchy monologues. I'm like, hey, Katana, can I read this to you? What do you think? Like, here's Harley here. Like, she feels this way, but she's kind of a victim too. Like, am I going to get outraged if I have her say this? And, Katana would help kind of rework it with me or tell me that it was fine and I was worrying too much or whatever. So I would have her to bounce my ideas off of for a while. So, in that time, I was showing her Batman, the animated series, showing her the Harley Quinn episodes, because those are the ones that spoke to her most. So when it came to do a spinoff, and I thought, well, let's do a Harley spinoff and let's just hire my wife. And she's been prepped for this one way or another. So let's just try it out. So yeah, DC went with it.
And it's sort of go ahead.
No, so Katana, what's the difference between like writing for comics and writing novels? Like you have to, in comics, you have to direct the artist, or
I think that this probably varies a lot depending on who your artist is and what your relationship with that artist is. Mateo is, as you all probably know, he's so wonderful. And he doesn't require a lot of direction at all. In fact, some of the best tactics that we can use as writers with someone who's that talented is kind of giving them the space and the freedom to let their art do a lot of the storytelling. But the big difference I found just with prose versus comics is comics are a lot more like writing a screenplay. And there's so much about it that you kind of have to define things in a very distinct moment to moment, versus when I write a book, I can take all the pages I want to describe how beautiful the wall is or whatever. And no, you can't do that shit in comics. Move on. He'll draw how beautiful the moon is. You don't need to describe it in a monologue or anything like that. So it's a bit of a mindset shift. And so much
So
of
you
the
actually have to dial it back a little bit?
Yeah, oh, way back. Even like my dialogue, I think because I also come from an acting background. I've been an actress since I was like 8 years old. And and so I'm really good at the dialogue stuff, but I tend to get a little too much. I tend to get too wordy, and we have to like really tighten that up.
Yeah, it's been funny. I mean, it's been interesting trying to teach what I do to Colleen. Sorry, to Katana.
It's okay.
I knew I was going to do that. Actually, wait, this might be a good opportunity to get this out of the way right now.
We said we would touch on that. So who wants to take that one?
All right. So Colleen Katana, you're my wife, but your pseudonym with erotic romance is Katana Collins.
Yes.
So you decided to bring Katana as your writing name into comics rather than your real name.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier because I'm already a best-selling author in romance. So we really like kind of debated this a lot of like, do we start over or do we continue the pseudonym? And as I was kind of telling everyone earlier, I created the pseudonym, way back when I first started writing, because when I was writing, I still had a day job, and my day job was working with a lot of children. And I like worked in preschools, and I worked at hospitals and in like the NICU unit. And so it didn't feel like I felt like I needed to separate the two worlds a bit. And that's why I created the pseudonym. And yeah, so even like Mateo always calls me Colleen on podcasts as well, and it's fine. We're not super secretive with my real name.
Yeah. It's not your secret identity.
No.
We're not calling Superman Clark Kent here.
No, I don't wear glasses as my like little hidden.
But it would fool everyone, as we know from reading Superman comics.
But Katana is her real last name.
Yes.
So when you changed it to Katana Collins, some people thought you were hijacking Asian culture or whatever, but you're not, because that is for real. Like if anything, you're hijacking the Collins.
Yeah, well that's. I mean, you're not hijacking anything, but like Katana is my real name.
But I was correct in my assumption that you being named after a sword had something to do with Sean's attraction.
Yes, obviously.
Her dad, who, as far as we can tell, we did a 23andMe on Colleen, and she is, how most white people in America have some Native American blood in them? Mm-hmm. Not my wife. She is as whitey McGee as it gets.
Not any Native American.
Trace back her lineage. She goes back to Eastern Europe, to Czechoslovakia. Apparently, Katana is a surname in Czechoslovakia.
Whoa.
The way her dad describes it is he thinks that he has an ancestor who used to make swords in Czechoslovakia, but I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Well, that's
pretty dope story.
My uncle used to tell us this tale of like my great grandfather, like Zeto Katana or something like that, who would make these who learned how to make katanas from someone who was from Japan, and I'm pretty sure that's a whole lot of horse shit that he
was
just
a blacksmith.
I don't know. It seemed like
why can't it be a whitesmith, bro?
Tall.
It does make a cool story of
it's true.
of descendancy. Whereas a couple hundred years from now, someone down your family chain is going to be telling the story of, one of my ancestors drew comics and wore socks with sandals.
Oh man, my surname is Sandals. I had a father in Ireland who used to make sandals out of raw metal.
See, the metal part made that sound too cool, though.
I know, that's why I threw it in there. Story telling, everybody.
So, skipping up to now, doing a Harley story next in the White Knight universe made perfect sense, given everything that came before, from the end of Curse of the White Knight. So, coming up to now, we're going to see the returns of Neo Joker, obviously of Harley, Poison Ivy, the now slightly older children of Harleen and Jack Napier that we met in Curse of the White Knight. Mm-hmm. As we mentioned, the introduction of Grey Ghost from Batman the Animated Series coming into the White Knight universe. But now we also have some new characters that are coming that you guys created just for this.
That's correct. Sean, do you want to tell them a little bit about the new characters?
So, I sort of had Azrael murder a lot of bad guys in the last volume.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So he kind of cleaned up Gotham, and that's the irony is, and we'll get to this in volume 3, is maybe Azrael did do more for Gotham than Batman ever did.
Yeah, he made Gotham great again.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Thank you, Sean.
We're at top. Let's get into it.
Ooh.
So Gotham is kind of experiencing a quiet moment, and Batman's gone off to jail for 10-year sentence or whatever it is, and it's sort of the story. All these spinoffs is a story of what would all these characters be like if Batman was in jail. And it sounds like Batman's their most valuable character. Why the hell would you do a Batman book where Batman's not even in it? And that's a good question. But we're trying it out anyway. We've got the Harley Quinn one going on because she's such a huge character, and no one out there is doing a story with Harley like Colleen is, where she's got kids, she's struggling with postpartum depression. She's the Gotham City Police Department kind of needs her help because whatever her past might be, whatever her sins are, she has gotten closer to super criminals than anybody else history has. So she's kind of like the idea for me was, let's pitch Harley Quinn as a mind hunter in a way for anybody that's seen that Netflix series. Yeah. That's kind of where the impetus started. And I think that Colleen and I were talking about it casually. And then I eventually was like, why don't we pitch this? Why don't I tell DC? Why don't we do spinoffs? Why don't you just write under, my thing and I'll get you hired and we'll see if they go for it. And I guess they did.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it, there's, historically speaking, there are people who've done their crimes and they've paid their time in the prison system. And, Catch Me If You Can kind of comes to mind of someone who was a criminal. And because he was a criminal, he's able to help catch the people who do what he did and not as good. And if there's ever anything that was established I think in probably most Batman universes, but certainly in White Knight, it's that Harley is a very competent, very intelligent doctor. Regardless of the fact that she's lost her medical license, it doesn't take away the fact that she's essentially like one of the top in her class. She's a genius. She is a really good doctor and a smart woman who made some bad choices. And now she's beyond those choices and she's on the other side of it. So it makes sense to me that the GTO or Gotham PD would kind of be soliciting her help a little bit.
So this kind of sounds like like the FBI or something going to Ted Bundy for advice on serial killers.
Yeah, she's not Ted Bundy, but yeah. The thing that in my universe of Harley, what makes her work is she can't be complicit in murder. She can't be tied to Joker if he did anything horrific. When with White Knight, the biggest thing I was asking people to accept is, let's pretend that Joker never really got caught murdering anybody. Let's pretend that this is like the 60s Joker where he's just this like wacky goofball. I mean, it's not clear exactly what he's done because that's the only way you'd be able to believe that he would ever convince a jury that he was innocent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So given that, for Harley to work, she could be his girlfriend. She can be sucked into a bad, love triangle with his two personalities, but she can't be that criminal. So the out for me was when Joker tried to kill Jason Todd. That's when she pulled the plug and said, I'm done with this. This is too far. Like, I thought I could love Joker like I love Jack, but I can't. And now I'm going to do the right thing. So there is a bit of retconning to do as far as the mainline Harley versus my Harley. And it is interesting as we try to go back and rewrite timelines because, I'm not sure how comic books are able to do it so cleanly over 70 years.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, like there are things I would love to go back into Volume 1 and 2 and change the tenses on a few words just to make it fit better. But you can't really go back and I don't know how like anal a lot of readers will be with that stuff.
Comics have a way of people forgiving and forgetting as storylines go on. Like if Robert Kirkman can write Negan murdering Glenn in issue 100 of Walking Dead, and then by issue 150, Negan is sort of a hero. That's anyone can be redeemed.
The anal comic fans are on Twitter. So
yeah. Who cares? You're not on Twitter, so it don't matter.
That's funny because
fuck you, Twitter.
Colleen will ask me like, well, would readers really believe that? And I go, yeah. The rule with comics is if something is sufficiently cool, then they'll believe the science. As long as the payoff is there, you can write whatever bullshit science you want, and readers will be like, yeah, okay, sure. But if you actually translated that script word for word into an episode of Law and Order, no fucking way. There's something about it being a comic where it lowers the bar of acceptability.
Well, there's a bigger suspension of disbelief.
That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
That's why you're the writer and I'm not.
As you addressed, in Curse of the White Knight, Azrael killed most of the villains. Like everyone who was locked up, he just wholesaled all their asses. So can we assume that left a vacuum in Gotham's crime that led to the emergence of the new characters we'll meet in Harley Quinn?
Yeah, sorry. So I didn't answer your question from before. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so there's a vacuum.
Again.
So there's a new character in town called the Producer. And in this series is his first appearance. He's basically like a flamboyant Broadway producer who he sees Gotham as a stage. The stage is currently empty, and he wants to repopulate it by casting new actors, new villains. So you've got the Producer as the first appearance. You have Starlet, who is the female lead for now. She's like a 1920s Zelda Fitzgerald type knife thrower murderer, and she's kind of the antagonist for this book now. But we plan on working the Producer into every spinoff that we do. Because I don't even think I thought of him as an idea as I had Azrael killing all these people. But given that we needed to do something, I thought, well, okay, Gotham's pretty empty right now. It's pretty quiet. This might be a good growing period for Gotham. However, what if a guy arrives? He thinks it's a shame, and he wants to make Gotham as wonderful as it was. He's like a murderer in the Technicolor Dreamcoat or something like that. So it kind of worked out. So I feel like any series that we do that's a spinoff, we're going to have a new villain, which I think is cool for collectors and just for a writer sense too. I've always admired Neil Adams for owning a piece of Ra's al Ghul. So I'm like, I want to own my own Ra's al Ghul. So we're going to kind of throw a bunch out there and see what sticks.
Well, you left us a little choice because you killed most of the villains.
You had to do it to Baby Doll, even the Baby Doll.
Man, I when I had him kill everybody, I had him kill everyone I didn't want to draw anymore. So I'm like, Roxy Rocket, like, I don't know what to do with your fucking Rocket. You're dead. Two-Face, yeah, I like Two-Face, but he's been done. But, like, I hate drawing Scarecrow. I just had him murder a bunch of people I didn't want to draw anymore. I didn't think of it as going through all the villains. It was mostly just me being lazy. And with every volume I write, in my head, I genuinely think, this is the last time I'm ever going to write Batman. So I don't write it thinking I'm going to get on volume 3. I think, well, this is the last one. He's just going to kill everybody because that's it. And then when I get to the last issue, I'm like, well, maybe there can be a sequel. And that's kind of what's happened a few times in a row now.
Yeah. I remember our first tagline for the Producer was, it was something like, if actors go to Hollywood to make it, then villains come to Gotham to make it. It was something like that we had created, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, I don't think we ever used that in the script. Yeah. Maybe we should add that in there.
Yeah, Colleen, way to go.
And I dropped that ball.
That's like the first page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that it can just be printed on the trade paperback.
Yeah, that'll be the tagline on the paperback.
Working with Colleen, it's so weird, like having to explain like why a cutscene has to happen during a page turn. Like that's just something that I've accepted for decades, and having to verbalize why that's important is really hard. And some of the things I thought were carved in stone aren't. Like when we started out, Colleen, I was like, oh yeah, you can never do this, this, and that. And then here we are doing this, this, and that. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess some of the rules can be broken.
Yeah, suck it.
Yeah. But like sometimes, like when she writes action scenes, she'll admit like she hates writing them. She just writes, "Hey Mateo, here's 3 pages. These people are punching each other."
Yeah, I'm like, Mateo, there's a fight scene. Have fun. Make sure this person wins and their hand lands near this knife.
Right. So there's some things
that sounds awesome though.
To
like for
an artist, like yeah, exactly. You know, to me or Mateo, like we'd eat that shit up. But some artists, they really want the camera angle. They really want 6 panels, and they want like guy climbs up a ladder and he kicks the guy in the face. Like they want all that stuff. It's kind of strange.
And I mean, we don't know. Maybe Mateo hates that I write like that. Maybe Mateo was like on this podcast last week, like, oh my god, fucking Katana.
Yeah.
And her fight scene.
We were hoping you wouldn't hear it.
Yeah. I tried to be nice, but she's so shanky.
She doesn't write a good action scene. She expects me to think of it myself. Yeah, thanks, Mario.
Yeah, so, like, I've basically written this damn book.
She gave me no direction.
Wow, that was a good accent.
I like how we're still allowed. Do we have anybody who's Italian here? That would save us.
No.
Well, we're allowed to make fun of Italians a little bit.
Yeah.
They sound nothing like that, by the way.
Whatever. I actively employ an Italian. I'm allowed to make these jokes.
Oh, I don't know, really?
No, I know.
Just sit my alcohol. Is there anything that Katana was there any like suggestion that you had that Sean was like, no, I can't fucking draw that, I'm not gonna do it?
The egg roll.
Ah, the fucking egg roll.
What?
All right, what are we talking about?
So wait, you guys have read issue 1, right?
Not yet, no.
Oh, I thought you guys got a preview or whatever.
Oh, dude. COVID.
Yeah, they haven't gotten back on track yet. Yeah. We've actually received our shipment at the shop, but I haven't gotten around to pulling a copy out of the boxes yet.
No problem. You know, it's all right. Some people take podcasts seriously, some people don't. It's fine.
We just read ours online at midnight when they go on to those websites that we get them for free. We don't pay for them.
Yeah, nice. So, Colleen, tee up the egg roll thing then.
Well, okay. So there's a scene where Duke comes and visits Harley, and he brings her like takeout, and the egg rolls are in the takeout, and they kind of get in a little spat. And I wanted to have her throw the egg roll and hit him in the face, and Sean hard vetoed that. He was like, absolutely not. Duke cannot get hit in the face with an egg roll.
Duke is stoic. He doesn't like Duke and Batman are all have a lot in common, where I just don't imagine Duke would get hit in the face with an egg roll for comedic reasons. So I said, well, the egg roll can go at him, but it has to miss. And she worked with that, and she wrote that it misses him, and then he goes, you missed me, and Harley goes, I meant to. So there is still some humor there.
Yeah.
And as I was reading it this morning, I'm like, man, Duke totally could have been hit with an egg roll. What was I thinking?
I am going to hit you in the face with an egg roll.
We need pictures.
At the time, it seemed like I was right.
Yeah, as is most things in the heat of it, right? Like, don't we all feel like we're right in the moment?
Now the next time you try to argue with her on something, she's just going to say egg roll.
Egg roll.
Yeah.
Egg roll. Like code word.
Yeah.
Although I will say that was a good metaphor just in general with how working together is and should be, because it was like we had differing opinions, but we found the compromise, and the scene still really works very well even without him getting hit in the face. So It's a good illustration of both how our marriage works and how our working relationship works.
That's funny, because I thought it was more of like the technicality of drawing an egg roll, like you didn't want it to end up looking like a dick or something. It was more of just like
smacked in the face by a flying wiener.
It was more of like of the character's like personality was what the issue was.
No, it's funny. So there's a scene now in issue 2 where we have a flashback, and Colleen describes where pudding came from. You know how Harley calls Joker pudding? And we have a scene where they're at a carnival before Jack became Joker. This is like way before they met as Joker and Harley. And they were at a fair, and he's eating pudding, and she makes a joke about pudding, and that's kind of like the backstory of where pudding comes from. However, Matteo drew ice cream. I don't know in Italian if they have pudding in the language or whatever. So the other night
I don't
we're
think
watching,
they have snack packs.
we're like, well, can pudding in it, does it have like a frosting on it? Like, could we somehow fudge this? Like, I don't want to make Mateo redraw ice cream into pudding. And we eventually come up with like, fuck it, just leave it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like
damn.
or a cup.
Yeah, I wonder.
It looks like soft serve ice cream. Like, there's no way around it. It does look like ice cream, but it could be pudding. Yeah.
Oh, so you're
It's in a cup.
Yeah. Okay. So you think your readers are smarter than they are. We're stupid, Sean. So if it's in a cup,
that's what Colleen.
But yeah, that's sort of a cultural thing because, like in the UK, pudding is just what they call dessert.
Right.
So yeah,
our UK readers will be fine with it.
They'll get
it.
But this is so I find that I'm sort of in a manager position to a lot of these books. So I want my editor to be happy. I want to take her suggestions. I don't want to egg roll my wife and tell her no all the time. I don't want Matteo to have to redraw it. Like, I want to be a good boss, so to speak. Yeah. And that's partially why I got off of Twitter. Is like, I'm a leader now. I gotta just avoid drama and try to be Mr. Easygoing. So I'm just gonna get rid of this. So like when my editor suggests something I don't love, normally I'll say, well, I'll see what the team says. So I'm trying to be like a good guy to work with, but it kind of is my universe, and I don't want to have to put my foot down and have everyone walk on eggshells. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Unless it comes to egg rolls, then
when it comes to egg rolls, you're like, fuck it.
Food in general.
That's where you draw the line.
There are also times.
No, absolutely not.
That like he's, Sean's like reading through one of the drafts of the scripts, and like there's maybe a joke I wrote in that in the moment he like just doesn't get or he doesn't like, and sometimes I'll delete it. Sometimes I'll be like, no, I think we need a second opinion. Like, a lot of times the editor is also our mediator. Where it's like,
she's our marriage counselor. We need a referee to weigh in.
Yeah, like, Maggie, I like this joke. Sean does not. Does it stay or does it go? And like, she's kind of the final say.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And I'll write to Maggie. I'm like, we could have hired any women to work on this. Why do we have to hire the one that I'm sleeping with? Clearly, this is nepotism.
Whose idea was this?
And luckily, my editor laughs because she knows me by now.
And she doesn't have a Twitter.
No, it's funny. It sounds condescending. I was so impressed by some of your one-liners, Colleen. You had a joke about strippers that I thought was great, and I didn't think you came up with it. I thought it was an old joke I never knew, but you actually came up with a great stripper joke.
Well, it might be an old joke. I didn't. It's not like I didn't search for stripper jokes.
So at the beginning of issue 1, Harley is on stage dancing for Jack. She's not a stripper. She's a go-go dancer, and one of Jack's crime buddies makes a joke about a stripper. Jack goes, she's not a stripper, she's a go-go dancer. And then one of the other thugs goes, hey guys, Colleen, why don't you do the joke?
Hey guys, what? Wait.
Oh my God, you're killing it. You killed the vibe. Why are strippers like rocks?
That's
you skip the flat ones.
The flat ones.
Right? That's a good fucking joke for a comic. When I read that, I'm like, that's pretty clever. And that was actually, didn't you have another joke, Colleen, that they thought was too aggressive and they made you change it?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was though. But I had another joke that was much more risque. And
she's from the erotic romance world, so she's used to making all kinds of bad, off-color remarks. And when I pitched her the idea of doing Black Label, she's like, oh, great, I can say whatever I want. You can show nudity. You can show Batman's penis. Great, it's a free-for-all. And then the rules kind of changed.
Yeah, that was not the case.
Wait, so how far back were you thinking of this partnership in your head?
A year?
Okay.
Maybe.
Oh, shit,
yeah,
okay.
Probably, at least a year, because I want to say it was Comic-Con last year, maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah, I remember
it was
going.
like New York Comic Con, or prior to New York Comic Con that we were talking about it, I think.
Yeah, I was there with Colleen. I remember hanging out with Blake and getting Blake into parties and helping her meet editors and whatever. And I think I probably told Blake, I want to try to get my wife hired. So I'm sure I had the plan back then.
Yeah, I think because we had watched Mindhunter earlier that year and we loved it, and we like started hatching this idea of what if Harley Quinn was like Mindhunter.
Right.
And that was prior to New York Comic Con.
Wow, what a genius idea.
It's like, because I like the idea, but how do you do that but keep her Harley, if you know what I mean? You know, like that's the trick. Is like, how do you have her confront all these really savage, grotesque things, but still kind of have a sense of humor? Like, she's obviously not bouncing off the walls and making jokes like Deadpool, but she still has to have a little bit of Harley somehow. And I'm not really sure what the answer is.
Maybe it's a darker sense of humor where it was like jovial before, but you know, like when you go through war, when you see some crazy shit, like it just turns into a really dark sense of humor. And sometimes it's only funny to you. And that's like the Joker. Like it's only funny to you, like after a while. God, I'm a genius. That was amazing. Write that down.
Steal.
It's the nice part of the depth that this version of Harley has. You know, she has her history with Jack, but also her history of scaling back what Joker was doing. She has the relationship that she has with Batman / Bruce, and what we see coming up, you know, in the recent stuff, like in the short of the Harley Black, White, and Red. We see the relationship that she now has with Leslie Tompkins and with Renee Montoya.
Well, and I think it's really interesting too, because I think that everybody in life has like their roles that they've taken on, and around certain people you sort of play up certain aspects of what your role is. And Harley's in this really weird place right now where she's now a single mother to twins, and her role has completely flipped on its head. And she's we've talked a little bit about the fact that our version of Harley in this is she's kind of suffering from a little bit of postpartum depression and not really knowing who she is in this new world. But her fallback is still to be the playful, jovial Harley, but she doesn't quite know how to be that anymore. So it's like, I think even when you are depressed and going through something, I think that we still all kind of have our role that we're like, like this is what I do. But then when you're alone or the person walks away, you just kind of crumple and sigh. And like, you don't allow the people to see the depression as much as you try to keep faking the fact that you're still Harley. I'm still jovial. I'm still funny. So
it's like volume control, isn't it? I mean, if that doesn't make sense, stop me. But like, depending on who you're around, you kind of turn it up, you turn it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also like, I feel like this is such a great time right now too for this book to come out with people like who might be really kind of resonating with like that concept, you know, because you know, you depending upon what kind of field of work you're in, your world is completely changed right now, and you're expected to kind of carry on and be the same person that you're supposed to be, but maybe you've lost your job, maybe your job is completely different, and like, you know, how do you still become the person that you once were and tackle all these crazy things? It's like, this is like perfect timing for that kind of stuff to be picking at your brain.
Yeah.
You know, it's when we for volume 2, I remember telling them I wanted Harley to be pregnant, and my editor said, no, don't do it. And they said, well, what if she has already had kids and you skipped her being pregnant? And I'm like, what? Like, why? Let's have her be pregnant. Let's show, like, a lot of our readers have kids. Like, I was surprised that I got so much resistance. You know, in hindsight, they would agree that it all worked out. But, you know, if I was pressed, if you asked me, do you think a Harley Quinn story where she has got kids would appeal to Harley Quinn people? I would say no. But I think that, on the other hand, I know why this works. It's because no one's ever done a Harley Quinn like this.
Right.
And I think there's a way to handle her having kids. Like, you're not doing a depressed mom story. her kids are literally riding around on hyenas like they're little tigers. You know, like there's a nice cutesy fun Harley twist to motherhood that makes it work. Like I don't think the comics, let's be honest, like it's mostly straight white guys reading comics, right? Do they really want to read about Harley dealing with her motherly problems? No. But I feel like there is a story there where they would actually be very charmed by it. And I think, you know, female readers, of course, I think will be all over this too for many different reasons. And then the other part of getting Colleen involved with this was I feel like there's got to be a way to cross-pollinate her previous career with this career. You know, like, hey, fellas, you want to come up to our table and buy Harley? Well, guess what? My wife wrote this, and she also writes erotic romance. So maybe your wife wants to read this. Maybe afterwards she'll read Harley, and maybe you could, you know, whatever. Like, let's all read the same things and kind of see what happens, you know?
I think, Sean, you hit on a good point there. Like, in terms of motherhood, there is an element of, you know, Harley Quinn to being a mother, you know, and the shenanigans, especially if you have two at the same time. The shenanigans that go on in your house, like, it's, you know, riding hyenas around is the least of your, you know, problems.
Yo, they fought me on that too. He's like, why would she do they have saddles? Like, what if these kids fall over? And I'm like, guys, Mateo draws like animated Don Bluth style. You can have in that style, you can have little kids riding on, and these hyenas are basically people that can't talk. Like these hyenas would never allow a baby to fall off and get hurt. These hyenas would like die for these kids. And there's like a certain amount of, like this detached humanity to all of this that I don't think our editor saw quite right. But now that we're getting the art back in, it's like, oh yeah, these kids should totally ride hyenas. In fact, I'm going to be bugging Todd to release a action figure pack where it's Harley with two kids and like two hyenas. So.
I think one of my favorite pages that I saw, and this is going back to Curse, it was Harley was pregnant and like Batman's like fixing like the
crib,
the crib, and I was just like, here's Batman, full blown bat outfit with like a screwdriver, like fixing a crib for Harley Quinn, and it's like it just shows like it shows the humanity in both of them, and how like they're just not heroes and villains, like they live these lives outside of that, and they can still care for one another. And I remember like I wanted to buy that page so bad, and I was like, I'm like, damn it, I can't right now. But I just like I think about that page all the time. It's one of my favorite pages I've seen.
You know, I was not sure about that. I think I probably came into the house and asked Colleen about this. Was like, Batman's gonna build a baby crib. Like Harley needs a screwdriver. Batman, he has a screwdriver on his belt. Why wouldn't he? I mean, like it's the most basic thing. And I'm like, well, is he really screwing in screws while he's talking to to Harley about motherhood? And in between panels, the crib is literally built like that. That's kind of the magic of comics. Is in the gutters. Batman is somehow able to build a crib extremely quickly, and the scene can move on.
Yeah, and it made it seem like, you know, all the things that he could possibly do. Like Batman does all these incredible things, and then it's like, he could build a crib too. Like, you know, thinking like, here, I got you.
And he didn't even make it bat shaped.
That must have been hard.
I wonder, like, as a creator, like I do worry about like, do people really want to see a scene where Batman's building a fucking crib? Because you can imagine a bunch of YouTube videos attacking that. Like, why is Pussy Batman, Beta Male Batman? Why is he building cribs? You can imagine the dumb shit people would say.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be said for you don't know you want you don't know if you want something until you've got it there, right? How many people thought they didn't want this Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie until they saw it? You know, we know what we want until we see it.
Well, Colleen, you had a great phrase for this. Uniquely different.
Uniquely familiar.
Uniquely familiar. Do you want to explain that?
Ooh.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, it's like when you take a concept that is like unique in its concept and its hook, but also familiar enough to capture the audience that is ready for it and used to it.
So, Colleen, has there been any? Have you heard of any fans like from your novels that are going to check out the Harley Quinn book?
Yeah, so actually, I just posted about it this week
Wait, did I just
recently.
use your government name? I'm so
It's
lost.
okay, it's okay, you're fine.
Okay, we've called you like 4
Using it
different
all
names
night.
during this podcast.
Well, Sean called her the wrong name the day they met,
I
so
know.
Exactly. he just called Harley Colleen too, so I mean I don't know.
You know what? All these women in my life, they all look the fucking same to me. I can't be bothered.
You're Harley, he's Batman. Whatever.
So I just posted on one of the big romance groups in Facebook about it. Because there is a big crossover of women in the genre of romance who love the movies and they love comic books. I think that the big difference, though, is they will probably be waiting for the trade. I think that, I mean, some won't. Some will probably go pick up the individual issues, but I think a lot of romance readers are more likely to go and get the actual compiled book. And a lot of my readers are also digital readers. And so, maybe they'll pick up the digital comic. I don't know that they do that, but they seemed very, very excited about it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Colleen about the Batman bump, where if you're writing Batman, it doesn't matter how good or of a writer you are. When you're working on Batman, it just increases your fanfare by, X%. And even in her community where they're reading, to me, Joker and Harley is like a forbidden romance, obviously.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think it's that different than a lot of the stuff that her readers naturally read. So the question is, how do you cross-pollinate these things? The problem is price point is, $5.99, $4.99 for a book is not something that Colleen's normal customers will go for. But, $19.99 for a graphic novel, that they'll do.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like $4.99 for the issue is, most of my readers are used to anywhere from $3.99 to $6.99, but it's for an entire completed story.
Okay.
And in comics, it's $4.99 is the price point for chapter 1, and some of them are comic readers, and so I think they are used to that, but some aren't, and so I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
So let me ask you, Colleen/Katana, what has been the hardest part of writing Harley, and then what has been the easiest part?
Let's see.
It's a Catwoman purr.
The hardest part, I think, has really been how much time there is between. Again, to me, I look at it like chapters, and I know for comic creators and readers, like you call it issues, right? It's not chapters; it's the issues.
Yep, we call them issues.
In my brain, they're like chapters. It's like a chapter of a story, and having so much time between each individual chapter that you're writing, and I tried to write as much of it all together as I could, just to have it fresh on the brain and to have the story cohesive, and but you still have these massive gaps in time from when you submit the first issue, and then it's a month to 6 weeks before you get your edits back, and then after you go through a round of edits, then it goes to the artist, and then it's another month to month and a half until you get the art back. And so that I found really, really challenging and very different than how I usually create and work.
So does that allow for changes, or does that make you look at stuff and I should change this now?
It does allow for changes, especially in the wording, the visuals you kind of have to lock in, and once those are down, then you can rework the wording to fit the visuals if then it doesn't quite match up. And that's also the really interesting thing about this format versus writing a book, because as a writer, you can picture something in your head till you're blue in the face, but it's at the end of the day, it's also about what the artist envisions. And when Mateo pictures in his head is 10 times out of 10 better than anything I'm picturing. So a lot of times I'm like,
unless it's pudding, Mateo.
But like, it's always so much better than you think it's going to be as a writer who's not an artist. And so when it comes back and I'm like, okay, so now we have to like rework this dialogue because this dialogue fits better with these expressions that he put in there. So yeah, it's a lot of like moving puzzle pieces around almost versus when you write a story, it's like for me very chronological, and it's a bit more of hopping around with comics.
So Diane, are you? I'm kidding. I'm just.
Diane, I mean Sean.
Oh man, thank you so much, everybody, for helping me with my marriage.
So are you prepared for the Harley Quinn fandom is massive, hot topic, cosplay, whatever. You prepared for that to deal with that? I don't know, backlash or good or bad?
Not even a little.
She's not on Twitter actually. So
I'm
we're
not.
both off Twitter. So we're only gonna meet people. So the thing is, with whatever drama is going on in comics, when you meet people at shows and they're waiting in line, like people are mostly on their best behavior and very awesome when you meet them face to face. Like if you look at Twitter,
thank you.
Twitter describes to you how conventions are. It seems like a hellhole. When you're actually at a show, it seems great. So.
Well, and I've been to shows with you. I haven't been as someone who like no one was in line to see me when I was helping you at your booth. But I've seen it. I've experienced it at least on a micro level. So I'm excited to meet readers, and I'm excited to meet the Harley Quinn fans. I am also a little nervous, and only it's a whole new world for me. It's not something I'm used to, and I'm a very, very introverted person by nature. I'm really shy and introverted, so it's very much against my nature if I'm being very, very gregarious or talkative when I'm out.
The trick is people
put on a game face.
People are going to ask you like, what do you think of the new Batman run, or what do you think of Lobo? What do you think of this or that? Like they're going to ask you things like they're going to assume that you read the same comics they do, and when you don't, because I'm often in this situation, you need to kind of have like an answer that doesn't alienate them. So what are you going to say when they're like,
just say it all sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, that's not going to alienate
anyone. Your book?
The easiest thing to always say is just say, I prefer the old stuff.
Oh, clever. Take that note down.
I'll just stick to Harley Quinn.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't quite know what my answer would be. I am reading more and more comics though, so I am a bit more up to date. Like I read She-Hulk, which I really enjoyed, and what was the Monstrous I really liked.
Right.
Yeah, like so I'm getting to the point where I am reading more and just kind of understanding. And I did that very much as research, but then because it was also really enjoyable. And I'm a big reader, as Sean knows. Like I love to read. If I could just stay inside in my bed and read all day every day, I would.
What do you normally read, like for pleasure, just to chill out, kick back?
Oh man, I mean, everything. Like I'll read. I love romance novels, obviously. I really like memoirs. I read a Julie Andrews memoir that was really good. I'm reading a book right now called The Year of Living Danishly, which is all about a woman who moves to Denmark with her husband who starts working at Lego. It's a true story. And it's all about the culture differences of living in what's considered the happiest country on earth. And she's from London originally. So I read all kinds of stuff.
You read stuff to like learn.
Well, I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's like
What a nerd.
Comics are about burning brain cells, not growing in college.
No,
But,
I don't think that's true at all.
I had a question about that. So I remember probably the first time we had Sean on, he described like, I don't know what the question was, like what's the weirdest moment you've had in comics? And he described, I think it was while you were drawing, God, what was the horror book with Scott Snyder?
The Wake.
The Wake.
No, not Wake. It was you did an arc in the vampire book. Is it I Vampire?
American Vampire. Yeah, sorry.
All right, it was American Vampire. and one of the best fucking stories, and you had to I don't know why you couldn't make the trip or why Katana was like carrying your art for you, but you had to go through like customs and they opened up the art to look at it, and it's all these fucking Nazi like flags. It's like because they're Nazi vampires.
Yeah.
So it's all like it was the issue where it's like all the regalia and all the flags. So like,
yeah,
what was that
customs,
like for you?
Customs, yeah.
Yeah, at Heathrow, going through customs.
Because first of all, you have to explain. I don't know if you did, but it's not like it's real. Like it's not. This isn't real. This is a vampire comic book. Like it's not like we're hailing Hitler or anything like that.
Right.
Do you remember what that was like?
Yeah, and I think it was because of weight distribution when we were flying. Like we had to make sure that our bags were under a certain weight, so we had to take like some stuff out of his bag and put it in my bag, and so I think that's how
what's so heavy in your
ended up in my
bag? I'm
bag.
like, well, I have a lot of paper in here. And they're like, you have giant pieces of paper? Like, yeah, like 11 by 17 giant rolls of paper. They're like, can I see it? I was like, okay, here we go. Nazi drawings coming out of the
international incident.
Oh man.
Yeah. So was there a moment when like, because you talk about how even Sean was like kind of embarrassed to tell you like what kind of an artist he was. Was there and everyone has their connotations and ideas of like what comics are, but was there a moment either when like you were actually like writing it or when you read something when you realized, oh, like this is actually like a different kind of medium that like I maybe didn't know about or didn't know how it kind of like how crazy or how cool it got?
I mean, he introduced me to it when I was pretty young. Like not as young as I'm sure many of you started reading comics, but I was like 18, and he off with like kind of indie stuff, and like I said, that True Story, Swear to God, which was a love story, and he started me off with blankets. So I don't think I really had any preconceived notions about the world of comics. Like I think it was just, and all I knew was Sean. Like I didn't know any other creators when I was that young, and no, I don't know. I didn't really have that.
They're all basically like me, Colleen. They drive fast cars. They work out 6 days a week.
Prepare for the
They wear
apocalypse.
sandals with socks.
Yeah, they have their own swords made. Let's forget about the sandal story for now.
And like even when we started meeting people at conventions, like everyone was really lovely. Like I just, and our experience, I felt like was really good, or mine was.
She clicked with Jock really well in France.
Yeah.
She clicked with Fiona and Scott Snyder and Mateo. Obviously, Mateo's like a family friend at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't keep a lot of company in comics. I have my close friends, like Dustin Nguyen is a brother of mine.
Yeah.
Like I don't know everybody. I have a handful of really small handful of friends that I like would take a knife for, no questions asked. But yeah, like a lot of people in comics I don't know. And I don't know. I don't do a lot of shows. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I don't see the shenanigans that they get up to. Yeah, but when she met Jock and she met Fiona, I was like, yeah, this is like, she's like, is everyone in comics like this? And I go, no. Jock is very well adjusted. He's social. He's fun. He's nice. He's clean. Fiona is like, like everyone we're meeting is like, this might get me in trouble. The cream of the crop types of people. They're not angry, outraged idiots on Twitter. So these are the cool people in comics.
The ones who aren't
like. She got to know those people really well. Yeah. And if I don't really hang out with people who are pros that aren't cool. Like I want to hang out with people that are nice and respectful and all that stuff. I just don't click with like the Twitter crowd so much. So she's never really met a lot of the Twitter types, so to speak.
It's for the best.
Waiting for Katana to meet someone dressed as the Harley that she wrote.
Oh, that'll be
sure it's gonna happen.
It'll happen.
Yeah, very soon.
Or like if I meet someone who comes with their children and their kids are dressed like Harley's kids and she's dressed like Harley, that'll be real
so
cool.
Sick.
There's definitely
the sexy cosplayers that used to come by my table and they would dress up with whatever new character I'd drawn. And my Colleen would always see them. She's like, who are those girls?
You get used to that, though. You get used to it.
She's like, all right, when you take photos, make sure your hands are where everyone can see them.
That's just sound advice, though.
It's a good rule of thumb. That's when I worked at Disney. That was the rule. Like, if you take a photo, you have to have your hands out. Like, even if you're like hugging a kid, you have to make sure your hands are always seen in the photo, and it's like pretty standard Disney rule.
Have you guys seen the Keanu Reeves photos of him taking photos with fans?
Yeah.
And you go backwards in time, you see him get younger and younger and younger, but his hands are always right where you can see them.
Yep.
That guy had it figured out way back.
Yeah, that's why he never gets in trouble.
He's got the best agent or advisor or whoever.
Manager or whoever.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Do we have to let you guys get out of here?
Yeah, we should get going.
We should probably wrap it up soonish, but yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to be the reason that someone was left stranded.
She's not stranded yet.
Oh shit. Oh, you mean you're at the airport?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We only live 20 minutes. It's not that bad.
No, and
Oh, okay.
she hasn't landed.
Is there anything you wanted to say, Colleen? That did you want to talk about nepotism at all?
No.
Wait, no. You're great liner. You're one liner. You're like, because she'll say this when she's drunk, and she's not right now, so I'll say it. 'Cause I am.
Oh, great.
She's like, people think that this is my long game. Marry a poor, shitty comic book artist in sandals and socks when he's, date him when he's 21 and always hang out, and then marry him when this is like the long game to success. Like, if I'm seriously banging my way to the top, then this is like 20-year investment. I deserve Harley at this point.
Which is a fair point.
Yeah, exactly.
You put it in the work.
And I understand maybe the people who are a little hesitant at first, like, wait, it's his wife writing it? Like, ugh, okay. And my hope is that they look it up and they look through it and they see for themselves that, like, you know what, this is good. Like, she does have talent and the chops behind
Or
getting
if they don't like it, they'll be like, well, I bet she's great in bed.
And they'd be right.
Yeah, to go back to the issue of possible backlash from people, I really don't think there's going to be any. The response to the Harley of the White Knight universe so far has been overwhelmingly positive, and you're giving people in this upcoming series things that they have wanted to see. Like, we're getting Harley, who is a very functional mother, but also still being a badass. She helping. She still is maintaining her relationship with Bruce, and she's doing this stuff, to help the GTO. But we're also getting like things like the flashbacks. We're seeing her past with Jack. You're giving readers the moment where Jack and Harleen got Bud and Lou, where they adopted the hyenas. So you're giving them all of these moments that will be fan favorite things.
That's
Right.
true.
Thanks, man.
And I think it's really important to note that, like, this fear of backlash and nepotism, this really comes from my anxiety, right? Like, everyone so far has been really welcoming and lovely.
Right.
So it's just really my own anxiety that's like, oh my God, they're going to hate me.
No. It's interesting.
That isn't bad to be prepared for that, though, right?
Yeah.
They say, prepare for the worst, but anticipate the best.
Yeah.
The thing is you're not going to get any of that from the people who are already fans, because, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but the Sean's stuff is doing pretty well. So
Great fight.
I'm gonna buy a new pair of sandals, you guys.
I'm a 14.
But like, I think the Murphyverse, now it's like Murphyverse, because you got the whole family involved. But I think the thing about the Murphyverse is, like, it's really kind of created its own fan base that some people who read this stuff, like, might not be reading the current Batman stuff because it's so refreshing and it's new and it's something that people have been wanting for a while. So they're thankful and they're looking forward to the new stuff. And, like, if you think about it, I don't think like the majority of the people who are reading these books are going to give a shit about your relationship to whomever, as long as it's good stuff. Plus, like, you're a real writer, so you're like a real writer. So you already have the pedigree.
You write books.
You read real books to learn. You read comics to get.
You look at pictures and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
You'll be here describing pictures.
I think the only people who are going to have anything negative to say are going to be the ones who are bitter that they're not in this position. But that's because they probably anyway, and they probably have been given an opportunity, or maybe they're just too bitter to take the chance to like figure it out. But I don't think you have anything to worry about as far as fans or any backlash from the people who matter, and the people who matter are the ones who are buying the books, who are reading the stories. Yeah, that's who matters.
And I don't think matter. That's a big caveat.
Yeah, the people who matter don't give a shit. They just want good stuff, and that's all that matters.
Bitter people are going to be bitter no matter what. Like they're probably bitter because they have to wear a hairnet on their neck beard while they're at work, and so that's why they're.
Hey man,
hey, I appreciate that.
Colleen's had to watch me go run the gauntlet on Twitter over the years and get in trouble for this, and that. Some deserved, some not. So she's sort of like for me for so many years. Every time I come in, she sees me on Twitter. She's like, "What did you do? What'd you say? What's going on?" Like her alarm goes up. It was funny. I got off of Twitter. So all right, we're getting a new car. We were going to get a new car. We had the version where we could get the puny 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder with superchargers in it. And I really wanted the supercharger, which cost a lot more.
Why not?
She goes, "You can't get that. We don't need a car that fast. You already have your Datsun." And I go, why would I get the 6 when I could, why would I get the 4-banger when I could have a 6? And she goes, "If you get off of Twitter, we'll buy the 6.
Whoa.
So I'm like, deal. I got off the Twitter, and now I've got a car with a 6-cylinder supercharger. And every time I drive fast, she's like, "Stop driving so fast. You're going to kill us." I'm going to say, "If you make me slow down, I'm going to get back on the Twitter."
That was not the deal.
That's the deal.
If you get back on Twitter, I'm selling that fucking car. I'm going to get you like a K car to drive around.
It's such a dumb, because I consider myself somewhat of an intellectual, and to be so singular minded, I'm like, I'm happy to be off of Twitter because I have a fast car that goes real quick. I can't believe I'm that much of a fucking simpleton, but it works.
No, yeah. How much happier are you? How much happier are you that you're not on Twitter?
Much happier.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's just way too much negativity. Like you were just wasting
toxic.
time.
It's so toxic to be honest.
Every week, I want to write a long essay on why creators should get off of Twitter. But I know if I do, then someone who's at this podcast right now, whose name rhymes with Colleen, will get mad at me and say, "You're stirring up all the shit. Everyone thinks you're talking about them. Everyone hates you now. No one's going to want to be your friend, and your career is going to be over. So don't do that stuff."
But that's the perfect distraction from like the fear of the nepotism thing. So you should do that right now, and then suck all the blowback off from that, and then no one even fucking realizes like who the writer is, and then that book does fine. So you're genius, dude.
Thank you, everybody. That's not my wife.
No.
Well, the best thing is just like not to pay attention to it. Like I think Joe Rogan talks about it all the time. He'll post something and not read the comments.
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm doing the right thing. Do what you guys think.
Still making 90 million.
Like you guys are.
I'm a massive Joe Rogan fan, and it's funny. I'll play it for Colleen every now and then, and she'll get a little miffed. But I'll play an episode from like 10 years ago, and he used to use the R word a lot. That's not a word I would use freely anymore. But I keep prefacing it like, Joe Rogan is like the smartest meathead ever. Right. And even though his earlier stuff, he did this, like he doesn't do that anymore. Like you're watching him evolve each time, and that's the context.
He tells you that. He'll say that. He's like, "I'm nothing more than a chimpanzee with the ability to write and read. So I will read everything that smarter people put in front of me just so I have." And it's true. It's like he's found a way to block his ego and just allow himself to learn, and that's the best thing he can do.
Yeah. Don't read the comments. Don't read the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't read the comments. I mean, and getting off of Twitter, it's not for everybody. I'm sure some people get what they need out of Twitter, but for us especially, I mean, we're two people with two different types of anxiety that we suffer from, and like Twitter was just feeding that anxiety in a way that like I think that we've never been healthier since getting off Twitter. Like,
Colleen, what's your? Why is that though? Why is that? you're off Twitter, and what?
And why are we healthier? Is that
Well, I mean, what I'm getting at is what I was gonna ask Sean. Actually, like it sounds like he's off Twitter and he's actually allowed to be himself.
Yeah.
You know, and
No fear.
with no fear of backlash. I mean,
when you're on Twitter,
right?
it's like, well, I have a platform. I'm one of the top people. Should I weigh in on this? I mean, what's the point of making it if I can't try to sway public opinion in small, even-handed ways? And that would be nice, but it is Twitter, and people are just going to attack you for whatever. So I feel like trying to be the level-headed one in the room is just going to get you attacked because, like, oh, you're not on a radical either side. Even though I'm a super liberal, I don't read that way, the way I tweet. So people would just attack me for whatever they could find, and it's like, all right, you know what? I was trying to help, but fuck you guys. Now I'm going. Bye.
And
congratulations, by the way.
And you also don't know because, like, on Twitter, it's like you could be like 12-year-olds being idiots, and it's like you either go back at a 12-year-old. You don't know. Like,
Twitter is not the final word on life. So.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that was
for a lot of
exactly
people
how
it
I
is,
felt. I was like, well, and yes, for a lot of people it is, but truthfully, Twitter's, at least in my life and how I want to live, it's not real life. It's not my universe. And just in general, I feel like we both became happier, more relaxed people when we just let go of that balloon. You know, we let go of the balloon, and immediately there was a big sigh of relief. Just okay, like that's not our burden anymore.
There was a point, I think, when it was a definite tool. It was a good tool to use to build an audience, to build a foundation for like networking and marketing yourself. And at some point in the last like 5 years, you know, because of the way that they handle the algorithms now, and it just doesn't really push things out as much. So that tool wasn't really as needed, but people were still on it. People are still on it. But the thing that if you build your audience and your audience comes, you have your audience, you grow it. Now you have established yourself. You don't really necessarily need all this marketing. The longer you're on there, it's just you're waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, you've built your audience and you've gotten to a level and a point where you're gonna have fans regardless of what you do. They're gonna follow you because they like your work. So there's no more need for Twitter as a tool as it was used.
No.
There's a lot of people out there who still need it because that's their only way of remaining relative, because they're not
100%.
getting this consistent work. So they need to have that voice, and they need to have the millions of comments responding to them. And it's just like, think of like Frank Miller doesn't fucking use Twitter. Frank Miller doesn't use Instagram. He's so fucking old. Like, he's so goddamn old, but like Frank Miller
he's only 60, by the way.
Jesus, dude.
But I mean,
damn.
Going in on Frank.
We're never gonna get him on the show.
Right. he can like piss on a side. He can piss on the side of a wall of a board or a building, and people will still want to look at it. You know what I mean?
I've seen that Batman cover. Yeah.
and sell it.
He could wear socks and sandals, and nobody would say anything.
He lives in Hell's Kitchen, so he probably has.
But like I'm not gonna like put the specific of what I saw, but you know, and I'll tell you when we're not. Oh, we'll wait till we're not recording till I'll say this. But you know, whatever. Great that you're not on Twitter. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And I got a story to explain a little bit more of my point on why I really think that Twitter is great for certain instances. At a certain point, though, like especially like I work in a field of mental health. It's not very good for people who have significant issues of mental health that need attention, because they're getting the wrong attention, and it's giving them a false sense of fulfillment that it's going the wrong direction. You know,
I was able to, you know, back, I forget what year it was, back when the New 52 or whatever. I made a bunch of friends, and we would talk about comics, and you know, that would be that. You know, we would have conversations, and then I didn't get off Twitter, but I just checked it less, and it became something totally different, and what I like to call a cesspool, you know, which is what it is now. But I mean, years ago, I guess the New 52 is 10 years ago. I don't know. I've been reading comics so long, but Yeah, I mean, back then I was able to make friends, but now man, I can't see how you would go about that, or
Yeah.
if you deferred on an opinion or a viewpoint, you've made an enemy pretty much. It's a weird space.
What's nerve-wracking to me is if I go to a show, I'm a paid guest, they flew me out, they paid me an appearance fee, I work my 12 hours, I made money, now I'm relaxing, I'm going to the bar, and that's the bar where everyone else, all the other pros are at. You can feel people like tensing up when they see you. You can feel them wondering, what was the last thing Sean tweeted? Was that something that pissed me off? Was there like, what is it about? And like, you just see them doing the math, and it's like, I'm just trying to get a drink. Can we all just fucking calm down? And the idea of mental health, like I agree, and I don't think everyone in comics necessarily has mental issues, but I don't think being at home alone, working in a vacuum, is healthy. So whatever issues I have as a person, I can speak for myself, is only made worse by the fact that I'm not in an office with a cubicle, going to Christmas parties and like things that like keep me in check. So like I get to say and do and wear things without being challenged. And now I go to a convention or I get onto Twitter and like, of course that backfires because I'm not properly vetted as far as how to deal with other humans. And I think that that's what we're seeing on Twitter is, and I said before, like Wizard Comics made professionals look cool, and then Twitter revealed the truth about us.
That's wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's a good way of looking at it. Hey, we keep fucking keeping you guys longer than anticipated. Sorry about that.
No, my bad. I go on long too. It's on me. So thank you so much for having
thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
This was great.
Next time I'll Colleen on by herself, and she can shit talk me even more in my fashion.
That's what we're waiting for. And
about egg rolls.
But what we do have to do in the future, I should have reminded Colleen about this. One of my greatest wishes for this episode was for her to find a passage from one of her novels to make Sean read. I should have reminded you about that.
Next time.
I did too. He got off the hook this time.
Yeah.
Yep. Aw, too bad.
It'll just be even worse next time.
We also didn't do the lightning round.
We've done it with Sean.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Yeah. Katana comes on.
But for now, though, October 20th, issue 1, Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn, by Katana Collins, Sean Murphy, Matteo Scalera, Dave Stewart, and colors on the covers also by Matt Hollingsworth from all the White Knight books. So get out there and pick up your copies. And, don't tell them on Twitter what you think.
If you read it, tell us what you know. If you hate it, let us know on Twitter, please.
Shouting into the void.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, guys, especially since you were on a schedule tonight. But enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Happy Birthday to Sean. I hope you guys have a great time this weekend.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will talk at both of you very soon.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.